Okay, folks. Go ahead, Beth. This is
Okay.
DM8.
So curiosity and research are big words, and research also takes us to places like finding out what's right. Like if we're doing typography and typesetting and things like that, to make sure that we're doing that right, and making sure that we represent ourselves with the degree of integrity that will sustain us through our business life. So if we have a sort of a personality trait that makes a difference in how we work, we don't want to suppress that. We probably want to enhance it and help it work for us. So we don't want to try to be like anyone else. So that's one of the things. And so that in identity and branding, that becomes kind of important. So you have to feel connected to the work you're doing. And when I look at online quick tutorials on how to make a logo, there are several. I think I've got them up there that I'm going to bring on board. They're not looking at the meaning and integrity behind things. So that's one of the things that we want to look at. I have over here a little list of, let's see, looking at, oh, first of all, I wanted to announce that the VITIA survey that we were supposed to do was the old one, and the new one is there, and we get credit for that. And it's also a way that we get our funding for programs like digital media and all of that sort of thing. So please do take the VITIA survey that's in Canvas. And let me just go make sure where it is here. And probably don't need to share my screen yet, but I'll just let you know where it is. Okay, for our class, it's this week. So I will share my screen right now. So right here. Everybody see that? You could also look at it on yours, but I'm going to be looking at a couple of things in here that, so this is week 2, our design week we're in right now. And this is when you should be doing this VITIA survey. So you go in and click on it, and then you click on this link right here, which was the old survey, and it wouldn't allow you to do anything. And so when you click on that link, then you take off and fill in your name and your student ID, and then answer the questions. And it helps us see who's in our classes in digital media, and so that we can justify requesting funds or claiming funds that we're supposed to have. And that's the way that we represent ourselves to the funding agencies. I think this is a Vocational Training Education Act funding that, is it? John, do you know if this is Patia state or federal?
I think it's federal, but I'm not
One of
entirely sure.
No,
It might be one of those things where the funding is distributed by the states, but some of it comes from the feds. I'm not entirely sure how it works.
yeah. So I do want to kind of do a little review here. I want to make sure you know about that. And in our module 1, just to do a little quick review, we were looking at project 1, which is due now, about your way of approaching things and your what you think about in terms of your design future and the kinds of delivery that you look at, how you would be representing yourself. And so that is one of the things. And I was just looking at, maybe it's not down here. No, let's just look at this thing that I was trying to do at one point. And let me just get a link here. Not the survey. Okay. Let me get it here. So, selling is everything. So I took this online course about branding and starting a company and how you would brand yourself. So it was you had to analyze what your problem was and all of that kind of thing. So uh, my planning company was Best Laid Plans, and I wanted to make a band that would take the lids off of the jars that in my later years here I've been having trouble taking off. And so I had to do my research, find out what the field was like, find out if what I was going to do was going to work. Had to figure out a name for it. So it was Cap Off or Bandit or Top Off or Twist Again, which brought Chubby to mind. So, or Get a Grip or Grippy, something like that. And so you start off with your gap. So we're now kind of looking at our gap between ourselves and our identity, our brand, our look and feel, colors, what we want to, which businesses or who we want to brand and how we're going to do it and who we want to be connected with. So this is the gap is to develop a rubber band solution for twisting off tight bottle caps and jar lids. And so in the first week, we were given these tasks to do. We had to design, work on our design, and oh gosh, maybe it's not, it's probably too, oh no, there it is right there. So I'm also kind of a cone fetishist. So I have this cone right here. I don't know if you can see me at all or not. Can you see me at all? You have to stop sharing now, John.
I'm sorry, what was that, Beth?
I'm trying to share something that's physical, not
you in the
virtual.
little window.
Can I share part of the screen?
I think it's all or nothing. I don't know how to share part of the screen.
Okay,
I think
so
you have to
I'm
share the
gonna
whole
stop.
screen.
I'm gonna stop sharing and go back. So, and how
There you
do
go.
I just share me?
I can see you now.
So when I'm talking, am I big on the screen like I wasn't yesterday?
Well, that depends
Yeah,
on
you're big.
people's own settings on their own computer. If they switch to
Okay.
speaker view, then the answer is yes. But if they're in gallery view, then you're a tile.
So I needed to find a stand that would hold my various sizes of bands for different jar caps. So I found this conical stand that would. So I had a whole period when I did an entire show that was all about cones in the home and things like that. So cones were a big deal for me. So then I'm going to go back here and share the screen with you. And so this is a diagram of the kind of presentation I would have. What kind of packaging would I have for these very sized rubber bands? And I'm thinking about my brand and the look and feel of it and that sort of thing. And so I had the cone stand, and then you get reactions from people. They also require you to do a drawing of products, furniture, uh, schematic drawing. So I picked this one, and somehow it's not showing you the whole picture here, but I drew that. And so that was to show that you could draw. And then the primary needs for being able to use rubber band was you're hungry, you're thirsty, you need quick access, is it easy to use, functions as expected, all of these things. So we as designers are looking at ourselves as are we up to what we want to do? Or do we need to learn something? Do we need to look at ourselves closely and identify who it is or what side of ourselves we need to enhance or explore, so you can find out a lot about yourself that way. And so then they have you go, and in week 3, I didn't get very far. Go and compare all of the products that are out there that are supposed to do the same thing. So I went and got an array of products, and I just really liked. I still have a drawer full of rubber bands, and I use them pretty effectively. Mostly uh, can do the job with the rubber band. But these are all these products that were out there that are supposed to do the same thing, to take the lid off your jar. So I felt like I was on to a pretty good thing. And then they asked you to do perspective grids because you're a product designer. Okay, you're a product designer, so now you have to be able to do a certain kind of drawing. And I think that that's probably about it. But and I'm going to stop sharing that now and go to what we're doing next. So I want to get back into our. I have a little. Let me just see what I've got over here. Yeah, so I do want to show the kinds of things that you're dealing with in terms of representing yourself. And let's go to uh, so this is
in today's professional lighting design tutorial and industry fair, we're going to
so we've got
design. So follow along with the
people who are out there who are eager to teach you all about logo design. This is logo design using Illustrator. You can go online and look at how to draw a logo, and everybody's got a different idea. This one seems to be narrated by voice. What do you call it when you're hiring a electronic voice to do the speaking? So it's got an electronic voice, and I'm going to contract the screen now. And so that's one, how to design a logo with the perspective grid. What else is that? Yeah. So that's, there are many, many of them, but I'm going to just be looking at a few here. Again, this is the research. The curiosity is how am I going to represent myself? What's out there? What are people doing already? Should I find out anything about how to design the logo? So I'm going to turn the mute that and try to open this up full screen and try. And so they're talking about all these shapes and colors, and so that when you look at a book, I've got a book here on logos and another one on how to make them. So this is definitely talking about how to make that star by using the Y's in someone's logo name, all of that kind of stuff. So this is the kind of thing that's out there all over the place to get this back into shape. So this is a Squarespace. Again, you've got the Squarespace logo. Every time you turn around, Mohammed's got his logo, and he's showing all these other logos. And so you want to start with something, I think, that's not electronic. That's what that is closer to you, that is like the pencil and the piece of paper thing, and start working like that. And let's see what else we've got over here. So we've got a professional logo design, and he's encouraging you to use Wix, and you've got all these different using logo design using Illustrator. Hope that's that other one. Sorry, saw that already. Might have gotten two up there. So anyhow, the gist is that you want to be starting with something that is very personal. And so I don't have that. I'm going to stop that one and just use this right here. So you guys can see me when I'm talking.
Yes, we see you. We see you.
Okay. So when I looked online for a very prominent logo designer, he said I have two favorite books, and this is one of them right here. It is one of my heaviest books, full of teeny little weightless things. It's the Big Logos book. If you're really curious, you might go and look into this, but I think that what you really want to do is this one right here is about designing logos, and it's the other one when the famous person said these are the books that I recommend. If you he was also saying follow my directions too. So you do kind of like what you did with Project One, which is to start off, because you're the client in this case. So if you're Cosmic, designed by Cosmic in Santa Cruz, or you're one of the Jaguar, or a designer like that, or you're working on fresh start kind of designing a logo, you need to start off by listing all of the things that this thing could be. So this is, you make a chart or something of this kind, maybe just a plain old list, and list maybe some of the things that you talked about in your project one, because you were deciding, well, what am I going to need this for? How do I want to represent myself? What's it going to take to do some of the things that I may not know how to do yet? So again, curiosity and research. And so this starts off by showing you a whole bunch of logos, and we're going to be looking in a little bit about this topic right here. So this one is looking at logo redesign.
Beth, we can't really see the book.
You can't see the book.
Now we can. Now we
So,
can. We see the
how
cameras.
do I get myself in?
Yeah. If you basically, yeah. Now we can see it. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a logo redesign. So we're going to be looking into that today. And how many of you have seen Paula Scher talk about designing that? Yeah, 30 years and 30 seconds or whatever, 30 minutes or whatever it was. It didn't take you any time at all. Why do we have to pay you any money? So you're paying for 30 years and 30 minutes. And so you move along here, then we'll go look at a page of logo redesign. But when you start off with logo design, and you can do this in, Carl Roars may have this in his, has anyone taken Carl Roars graphic design class or typography class? So did he get into logo design in one of those classes?
He did in graphic design. I made a logo for my mom at the time.
Good. So he's done logos. He's Buttery, Riverside Lighting, all over town. Any of the cool signs are his design. And so he also designs the, showed this last week, designs the alphabet book for the Friends of Calligraphy, which is a national or international actually organization of calligraphers. And I'll be showing another friend's work for that. So this calligrapher right here is I think she's French, but she got very involved with Chinese style calligraphy. And so that's influencing her. So how things look in type, how your name looks in type, if it's the only thing you've got, is a pretty important thing. And I'm going to get to the page where he talks about. So right here on these pages, this is how you get to the, this is how you get started with designing your logo. So if you're all, can you all look at this to see what I'm talking about there? So this is what you used. You used something like this right here, and something like this right here to design your logo. That's where you start. So unless you...
Are you saying they should sketch it out first, Beth? Is that what you're saying? In other words, start with sketching. Is that a hint?
This is a pencil. A pencil. It's a silly pen. That's why they call it that. Um, so that's that. And then, let's see, there was some next piece to that I was really important, but I'll probably be coming back to it later. So I'm going to share my screen now for, so this is, I took a class in calligraphy from this guy, Stephen Skaggs, and he wrote this book on logos, the development of visual symbols, and the entire book is about one logo, developing one logo for one pharmaceutical company. And I have it here somewhere. It's gotten buried, and as soon as I find it, I'll let you know about it. But it's just very impressive in terms of the fact that there's a whole book on designing one logo. So that's a real deal there. And let's see if I've got, oh, I want to look at Ann Miller. So I'm going on a little bit of a typography run here. I had these links out here, but maybe I'll just have to see if I can do it this way. So this is Ann Miller, and Ann Miller was, she and I went to college at the same time when we were in the same art classes, and we started the same group called the Anonymous Artists of America, and she was a drummer in the band and I did quotes, and so she's, there's some video of her drumming in the park with the band, but she became a painter and a calligrapher and teaches up at the Academy Art Institute, and she does logo design as a calligrapher. So her, oh, my connection's unstable. So these are examples of a calligrapher's approach to logo design, which involves the brush and pen and creation of letter forms. So not always with an image, but with the design of the logo within the letter forms, letter shapes themselves. So that's one of the things she does. And my, you know, not quite behaving as expected. Oh well. But well, there we go. So she does landscape painting. She does logos. She does print design. This bird over here hunting was in a Printer's Chapel event where they rolled a steamroller over the paper on the street. So the press was a giant rolling machine, and so this piece over here was made like that. So it was all woodcut, but then that method of creating prints. So your various inclinations towards art and making and doing and creating, so it could be acting or dance or any kind of form, is something that you would want to call upon to help you with your decision about who you are and how you want to look. And let's see, I think that's custom art. Doesn't look like that one's getting where I want to go. So I also look to other friends and relations. So a friend of mine called or wrote from London a couple of days ago to see how I was doing here. And he's an antiquarian book dealer. So let's see. Let's just see if that works. So he's an antiquarian book dealer. So he deals in the oldest books there are in the world. And so his perspective, he's gone from working at the Hard Rock Cafe and traveling around India, then going and working as a manager of the Hard Rock Cafe, then getting involved with antiquarian books, which takes you back to the very long ago typography. And I do have one of his catalogs up here, but I didn't get that quite set up. I do want to go to look at, this is a kind of family and friends moment here. So looking at so this is my friend Rick's son, Theo, who came from over, he was living in Amsterdam and doing interactive installations at museums and using art and computers, so digitally working with making spaces in museums and other places interactive. So this is a kind of a precursor to some of the things we're getting now in our there's a whole, so Design.io. Now, how would you brand yourself with looking at what you do? You would want to do something that was as simple and straightforward as possible. So that's what you kind of got here. So other projects that were happening. Right here is a project called Rise and Fall that was interactive with a magazine, an art magazine in London, I think. And you could interact with the cover of the magazine when you entered certain code to make the magazine come alive, magazine cover come alive. So this is a crossover between print and digital imagery, graphics. His wife does the illustration work, and so he's showing the getting the site online and showing the cover of the magazine to the webcam, which is picking it up and then interacting with the elements on the page and running an animation on the screen. So this is like in combination, so somebody gets a publication that's print and to do something like this, figuring out how to brand yourself is pretty difficult, so you would keep it very simple. But this is something that is good to know about. And the other child in this family is also experimenting with things. So when I do Beatty, it comes out Beatty Wolf. So she's Theo's sister, Rick's daughter. And so she's designed all kinds of things that are interactive and old-fashioned, have to do with storytelling for aging people who with dementia who forget where they put their, where did I put that? Anyway, so she is involved with music and does music videos and has a jacket that plays, that has a woven in music into the jacket, the fabric of the jacket. But so she needs to kind of think about how she puts herself out there, what the brand is, what the type's going to look like, and all of that kind of thing. So she's got different projects that have to do with putting her music together with various kinds of environments. So if you're, I'm not going to play all of this, but there's just these kind of trends seem to run in families sometimes where they're all doing something kind of creative and different ways. And it started with kind of with their dad's, he's not exactly creative, but he sells old books. And so the foundation of their existence was looking at a lot of history, that kind of thing. So other things that we got sharing here. So other things that I get are the, I would look at poetry. So this, their brand is their cover and their name, which is different on every cover of the book. So this is Poetry Magazine, and they do something, so it's a different imaginative treatment of the word poetry on all of these issues that have been coming out for decades, and they've managed to do this for quite a long time. So rethinking things and reworking things is another thing that you might get involved with. And on that note, let's see. Well, I thought I had oh yes. So let's just go in and
So Beth, it might be in about 10 minutes. We should probably take a break just to give you a time
thank you.
check, or any time you want.
Okay. Oh, not anytime I want. I want a break when we're supposed to have a break. Okay. So I did put a couple of little well, I'm just going to say I'm going to ask for famous logo redesign. I'm going to spell it right. And then I'm going to look at images. So these are all companies that have had spent a lot of money, taken a lot of time to design a logo, and then a lot of more money to redesign it. So if you design a logo and you don't love it right away, just know that it's okay to change your mind. So you can give, just taking a look, I was curious about how many of these there were. And remember the thing we just saw about the instructor teaching you how to turn your Y's into a star? He had appropriated this idea and then adapted it to the lesson that he was teaching online. And then there was the gap. Where did you all stand when the gap decided to change its name, for instance? Did you have an opinion? A lot of people did. A lot of people just blamed the gap about wanting to change their mark. And and this one in this case is which kind of logo primarily?
Better than the MoMA in New York.
Yeah, typographic logo. So a logo that's made of type, like Facebook, JCPenney, Motorola, but Motorola also has a shape or an image that goes with it, and Mall of America. And so when we looked at, for instance, the MailChimp logo, and this was after Jessica Hish had just spent a lot of time refreshing the existing one. You have just so it went from being, this is Jessica Hish's redesign. This is the original one, and we looked, I believe we looked briefly in this class at how she modified the spaces, made the loop of the P bigger so that it would look a little bit more open. And then this is what they decided to do soon after that. So they decided not to do script. But again, this is one of those things that is a typographic decision here. So deciding on this typeface or one close to it and then modifying it or reworking it. So they're letting you look at each of the letters here to see that it's not always what you think. So let's try to make that stop. I don't want it to stop. It all stopped. So those are pieces of research that you want to be aware of that are out there, and to kind of tell the difference between kind of the cheesier teacher, but you have some when you have Carl, and have you taken a class from Victoria May? Anybody taken a class from her? Oh, she's also runs the gallery, but she's a graphic designer, is a graphic designer, and so her artwork is pretty phenomenal. You can go take a look at her for her art. She has a 20 one of those 20th century, 21st century videos about her artwork. So she's a treasure. So if you can get to take a class from her, I would do that right away. And So she's also done some work with logo design, and so this is just talking about the whole MailChimp deal. But these letters are not right angles, so they're finding out where they came from is another thing, and then the colors that were chosen are another part of what you would be looking at if that's going to be a color thing. So for me, for the film festival logo, so I was on the board of the film festival, and they had a kind of ready script logo, and they wanted something more solid. And so two of us on the board were working on the logo, and then the person who was working with me sort of dropped out. And so it was kind of up to me to take the ball and run with it the rest of the way. So I created the logo, and it looks just like type, kind of on this sort of spiral. They wanted a wave or something of that kind to be in the picture. But when you turn this into all black and white, you need to move a lot of vectors in here so that this little part doesn't stick out into the shape of the black spiral. So this gets put on all kinds of things, and t-shirts and other stuff, and needs to stand up strong when it's displayed on the screen. So it's I thought that they had discontinued it at one point. I wasn't on the board anymore, and then I went in and went to one of the festivals and saw it big on the screen like that, and it's a thrill to get that, to see your work that you spent a whole lot of time trying to make just perfect. So they kept it. I was pleased with that. And then locally, you would be looking at, let's look at, so the looking at local design, so this would be our Jaguar here, not that one. That's the design studio. So then it's suggesting all kinds of things for Jaguar, but this is the local Aptos Jaguar Design Studio, where a couple of our students have gone to work and do a little bit of apprenticing, and ended up actually being more involved with code. So they really want you to get those cars. And so you want to look at who's in the area. So Designed by Cosmic is doing all kinds of work for Cabrillo as well, so that they were one of our the main part of the team that's redesigning not a logo, but the color,
Rebranding, the whole rebranding.
the whole branding, everything. So I wanted you to know where they come from and what their brand looks like, so that you can kind of.
Beth, do you want to do you want to show the Cabrillo rebranding stuff? Do you have that handy? That might be pretty interesting.
Let's go see if it's there.
That might be very interesting for them, because that's
Okay.
going to be pretty relevant. And also, it's 3:26 or 3:27, so it's just about time for a break. So anytime
So
you
let's
want to,
do this right after the break. So
yeah, why don't we do that, and we can find that stuff at the
mainly,
break.
I want people to get a sense of the relevance of your ideas to your personality, and so you feel like really comfortable with what you design. And so we're in the next round. We're going to give it a few tries, and we'll just stop this for now. How do you make the little screen keep from going by?
I'm not sure. You can stop sharing your screen. Is that what you mean?
Huh? No,
Stop
I mean,
sharing your screen.
to stop this, is there any way anybody from the outside can stop this? They are waiting long enough. They're waiting.
Oh, you mean the slideshow?
Slideshow.
If you click on it, does it let you stop it? Sometimes the slideshow will actually have a control, but it depends. Did they give you a control to stop it?
I think so. I clicked on this thing that looked like a thing.
I think you stopped it.
I think so too.
Okay, so why don't we take our 10-minute break, and I'll stop the recording and we'll come back in 10, okay?